Welcome, everyone, to a very special episode of the Let's Get Vulnerable podcast. We have a graduate of the Empowered.Secure.Loved program, Ashlee Hogan, with us. Welcome, Ashlee.
Hi, Dr. Morgan. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be such a powerful conversation. And I know you have so much to share about your own experience, your journey in the program, where you're at now. So I can't wait to dive into all of it. Um, I think these conversations are so powerful because they give people hope. That's why I love telling our clients stories. So thank you for being here.
Of course. Yeah. Again, thanks for having me. I'm excited for a conversation. I'm excited to, connect again.
I love this. And I want to tell you a little bit about Ashlee, just so you know a bit about her. I have her bio here. Ashlee is a criminologist and PhD student at Ontario Tech University in Oshawa, Ontario. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You absolutely did.
Okay. She specializes in trauma behaviors, trauma informed practices, and the trauma criminality link. This is fascinating. She is currently working on a number of projects ranging from trauma informed policing frameworks to technology facilitated sexual violence analyses. Outside of her professional life, Ashlee is an avid reader and hot yogi. She likes to spend the majority of her free time being active outdoors or in the gym and working on self-development. I love this. Thank you for sharing this with us, Ashlee. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we love Canadians. We have a lot of Canadians that find us. The podcast is ranked very high in Canada, which I always look at. I'm like, hey, Canada, we're neighbors. I'm in Montana. It's basically Canada. But yeah, I love all the Canadians that we get to connect with.
Yeah, we're a special bunch.
You are. You are. Well, let's dive in, shall we? I want to hear just about your story. And I think it's helpful for the audience if we just go back to childhood and where some of the roots were of the relational trauma and basically the things that led you to doing the program and doing this work. So tell us a little bit about your childhood and early relationship experiences.
Yeah, totally. Like you said, I think the root of it all as a child was not necessarily having good relationship frameworks to observe in my family. So I grew up in a household with one parent. So I never really got to see that dynamic of what it looked like to have two adults in a healthy relationship or in a relationship at all. Um, and so my sort of trouble stemmed from not really knowing what I was doing when it came to dating, to be honest, and trying to like fake my way through it or just avoid it at all. So, I mean, in my teenage years, high school, university years, um, my tactic was to avoid it, to avoid talking about it. And so I didn't date a lot. And if I did date, it was like a secret. Nobody knew about it. And there was just this level of shame around it because I wasn't confident in what I was doing and I didn't know sort of how to get into the dating game, so to speak. And it didn't become until I was older when I realized that um, dating was something that the more you do it, the better you get at it, like the experience you get. So as I got older and I desired uh, dating more, it became a huge issue for me because I didn't have that experience and I had this shame around getting it. So that's like more or less what brought me to the program was looking for resources and people who are experts in this area to sort of guide that because up until joining the program and even during and after the program, every experience I had with dating was problematic because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the confidence to improve at it, and there was just this whole shame around it.
You bring up such an important piece from your story that I think I don't talk about enough, which is growing up in a single parent household. and the reality of not having the model. Because let's face it, if it's not happening in your household, then you're not getting that exposure to, oh, this is what a healthy relationship looks like. Even if it's happening with your friends or your friends' parents, right? There's a difference in, oh, what's happening in my household, in my family, and your family models when you're a child, those are the ones that you're internalizing. So for you, it was almost kind of this lack of just not really having that model.
Totally. And that was something I didn't even realize at the time when I was, in those like teenage years, high school years when everyone starts dating. I didn't really click for me that, because I didn't have this model, I wasn't sure what I was doing. I just thought that I wasn't interested or that I just something was wrong with me, to be honest with you.
And I think that's where we can look at the brain of, okay, there's these things that are happening in your dating lives, experiences that you're having, and then your brain is developing these beliefs to try to explain your experiences. And so often we have those unhelpful, very self-negative beliefs like that you talked about of, not being good enough. Like there's something wrong with me, instead of the reality of, wow, I don't have a healthy relationship model, right? So, um, while we're on the topic of beliefs, this is a favorite topic of mine. Can you just tell us some of your past beliefs about yourself? I know you mentioned a couple, but beliefs about yourself and then beliefs about relationships.
Yeah, I think, and I think this is common too. A lot of my limiting beliefs stemmed from like a main core belief that was around worthiness. Like it was that I wasn't worthy of a relationship. And so anytime I was dating or I was pursuing someone, it was almost as if they were doing me a favor by agreeing to date me. And so my attention was always directed at, um, how am I making this person's life better? Like, what are they getting out of this connection? And I never once asked that about me. Like, how am I benefiting from this? Do I even like this person? What is this person contributing to my life? Um, and that was something that was really, really holding me back for a long time.
Is it fair to say that you found yourself having a lot of anxious attachment strategies?
So this is the really interesting part is I always thought I was avoidant um, in my early dating because I found myself forcing myself into these relationships with people that I really wasn't interested in, and I knew it. But I thought that if I forced it and I could find someone good enough to like fake it, so to speak, I could make it work. And it was like half of me was forcing myself into these connections, and then the other half of me was trying to find any reason to be out of them. So for the longest time, I
Mm.
did really think I was avoidant. And it wasn't really until I think recently, the past couple of years, um, that I was pursuing people that I was actually interested in, that the anxiousness started to come up. And I was like, this is really interesting because it's kind of like a complete 180 from one end of the spectrum to the other. Um, and again, that just contributed to this understanding or this idea rather that I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Clearly, I can't figure it out. I'm either at one end or the other, but I'm never neatly in the middle.
It's so fascinating how our attachment style really can change based on the relationship that we're in and also the relationship that we have with ourselves. And I do see this where I'll talk with women and they'll kind of confess to me of this pattern of dating down. And it's not saying that we're better than someone, but it's like specifically dating people that maybe you're not attracted to or that for whatever reason just don't match up with what you really want, right? And what happens then is you'll have a different attachment style when you're in that kind of dynamic. You could find yourself being very avoidantly attached versus, you mentioned, oh, dating people that I like, that I'm attracted to, and noticing the anxious attachment coming out. So this is why attachment theory is just so helpful to understand and apply to our dating lives, because it can really help us understand why we're showing up the way we're showing up in certain relationships.
Yeah, and attachment theory was something that I looked into a lot, like prior to the to joining the program too, because I knew there was something there um, with my background and my education. Having learned about all of this, I knew that I was somewhere on this spectrum, and I wanted to pinpoint where to figure out how I could get as close to secure as possible. It was just about getting there that I needed the help with.
Absolutely. And tell me a little bit about that decision to join the program. Like where were you at specifically when you were like, okay, I'm applying to this. This is I need to something needs to change. Like tell me where were you at?
It was definitely like a white flag moment. Like I was like, I cannot continue to do this, and I clearly cannot help myself. Um, and I had tried so many different things. Like I've been listening to the podcast since like 2020, read the book, listened to other podcasts, read other books, and um, I guess it was maybe like 6 months before I decided to join. Um, I had started seeing someone that I really, really liked. And it was the first time I had actually really liked someone. And I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. I'm not supposed to get upset when they text me, or I'm not supposed to try to avoid them when they want to hang out with me. Um, and that ended up not working out. And it was not my decision. Um, and so I think that was a really, really hard moment for me. It was the first time I had somebody that I really like walk away from a connection that was as strong as I thought it was anyway. And so I sort of went through the motions with that for the very first time. Again, since I wasn't talking about dating or open with friends and family about my dating, I kind of kept it to myself. And it didn't really get better. So I sort of went through the motions, but I still had this like really deep like grieving of this connection, and sort of what I thought that this connection could be or should have been or would have been if only if, I could have done something better. I put all the blame on myself, and finally it was like, clearly if I don't like the person, I'm not showing up how I'm supposed to. If I do like the person, they're leaving. So I need to, find some intervention here so that either the next relationship I get in, I can, keep quote unquote, or like I can get this person back or whatever it was. Um, and so that's what led me to the program. Was it was finally just like I need, a surrendering moment.
Hmm. I like to call those moments the common denominator moment, where you're because I had that moment of like, okay, it's me. I'm the common denominator in my relationships. And it's not that self-blame or self-criticalness, but it's that awareness of, why don't I take ownership over the things that I can control? And there's got to be things that I can do differently, ways that I can show up differently that will help me have a different result. And what I love is that you use the pain to motivate you. I think all the best decisions I've made in my life, a lot of them I can trace back to, I was honest about how much pain I was in, and then I was willing to change. Because if we're not honest about the pain, or we don't even allow ourselves to feel the pain, we just kind of stay in that like numbed out comfort zone. So we stay stuck. So your willingness to acknowledge, the white flag moment of, I'm in pain, this needs to change. And then obviously you joined our program, and I know there's so many questions I want to ask you. Um, do you have like a particular exercise or something that you did in the program that you felt like, okay, this was a major breakthrough for me?
I think that a lot of the exercises were really helpful. Um, I read the book before joining the program, so there are some exercises that I did while reading the book that I got to revisit during the program. Um, and I think that was really interesting because even the small time frame between reading the book and joining the program, a lot had changed in my life. Um, and so going back and being able to like add to the um, exercises that I had previously done and build on them was really interesting and really helpful. And I think in particular, like the morning alignment is something, and I'm sure a lot of people have said this, is something it's so simple, but it really makes a difference. And like I still do it, like I did this morning before you and I uh, got on here. But just being able to like set yourself up for a successful day. I love starting my day with that, and I don't see that being something that I stop anytime soon. Um, but yeah, for sure, the morning alignment was maybe a big one.
I love that. Oh, there's so much in what you said there. And I just think acknowledging that we can't do this work alone. And trust me, I was someone with a doctorate in psychology and had all this information. And even when I had initially created the program, I can tell you that I was still trying to do it by myself. And I had to go and have my own coaches and heavily invest into my own healing. And it's only because I've done that. I love that. And that's something I've been doing for over 4 years now. I think I'm going on like 5 years and doing it consistently. And it's amazing seeing it over time because I keep the old versions and I can like see the things that have happened and see the changes. And it's like, trust me, the longer you do it, the even more you'll enjoy it and see the power of it. So I love it as well, and that's why I have a journal that I'm going to be relaunching that'll come out hopefully sometime this summer. That'll go along with it, just because I know the power of that exercise.
Yeah, with the morning alignment, like mine's definitely had updates since joining the program, since graduating the program. And one thing I like to do is I like to highlight certain parts of it that are really resonating with me, whether it's like that month or that week. And sometimes there's certain parts that I need to hear or see highlighted a little bit more than others. And being able to do that, like it's a living document, has been really helpful.
Yes. I love that. That is, yeah, I completely agree. And I always tell people if you're not getting excited about it, if it feels like, oh, it's just I'm repeating it, it's time to update it. And basically every couple of months you should be updating it. So I love that you've already been making updates. That's great. Um, and tell me, what was it like working with Kathleen? I know you love Kathleen. She's one of our favorite coaches. I adore her as well. What was that experience like having a coach to support you through doing this work?
I think that the support was the one thing I needed. That like I had done all this work before. Like you can listen to the podcast, you can read the books, but you've said it a million times. Like you can't do this work alone. Um, and no matter how many times I heard you say it, I was like, well, normal people can't, but I can do it on my own. And it was just having that additional support from Kathleen. And I think that um, just building that trust, we had a good relationship throughout the program. She was somebody who would call me out uh, on my crap, and she would uh, point it out when I was sort of dodging things or not being particularly honest with myself, which I needed. I needed someone who was going to call me out, but I also needed someone that I felt safe with and secure with and could open up to. And that was like the reason I kind of stuck with her. We had our first call together, and it was pretty obvious to me that if I was bouncing back between different coaches, it would just take me longer to get comfortable with everyone. Um, and right away, she was somebody who like felt really safe. And so, having her to talk to during the program and to sort of help me along was really helpful and was really meaningful.
I've changed my personal life and I have an incredible partner. And it's because I was willing to do the work on myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that was just the biggest thing for me is having that support. And it is important, and it's humbling to at the same time to admit that there are things that you can't do on your own, and that you do need help and support, and you have to become okay with asking for that.
You do. And for everyone listening, I just realized, okay, this episode is going to come out after I make a very special announcement. So, Ashlee, I'm going to tell you, you'll be one of the first people to hear this. I am officially engaged to my partner. He,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, he asked me to marry him. So, I'm officially in my fiance era. So, I've been reflecting a lot on my journey. And it's just that realization of, wow, I would have never attracted this man or been attracted to him if I had not done the messy, deep work myself, that I have everyone else do. Like I've done everything that's in the program, and there's a real reason why it's in there, because I know it works. And I'm just so grateful to be at this place in my life.
That's incredible. That's great. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Um the power of coaching. If no matter how much reading you do, even me with a doctorate, it's like no matter how much knowledge you have, if you don't do the experiential work, you're not going to get the results you want. So, let's move on. Let's talk about dating. Let's talk about dating before the program. I know you've talked a little bit about that, but then where you are now and what are some of the changes that you've noticed in your dating life?
Yeah, so this is like the messy part of of it's a secret mess because, like I said, I wasn't super open about my dating experience prior to the program, and even during the program. Whereas now it's something that, I mean, I'm here talking about it. I'm happy to talk about it, but prior to the program, I found myself dating a lot of men that I just was not interested in. And like I said, I was trying to force myself into these connections because it's like what I thought I should be doing at that age. It was what I was seeing my friends doing. It was what I was seeing my sister doing. I had to force myself to form these relationships with people that I just genuinely had no interest in, and they were great people. You know, it was just not for me. And so I did that for a really long time. I had really short-lived relationships because I would get into them and then I would sabotage them. Um, and I mean, it's a two-person game, right? Like I'm not placing all the blame on myself, but I am taking the accountability for what I had to contribute to the ending of those relationships. Um, but not many people knew about them. It was just something I did on my own. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to be asked about it. Like, God forbid I go to like a family event and someone asks me, "So are you seeing anyone?" That was like the worst case scenario for me. I didn't want to talk about it. And there was a lot of shame around it. And I think the main thing that came with that was that I was sort of only letting myself um, date in a way that I thought was like acceptable or that people, um, would approve of. It wasn't until I actually went to graduate school and moved away from like my family, moved away from my hometown, um, that I really let myself kind of like start over and start dating the people that I wanted to date. And, giving myself permission to do that. And so, I don't know, I think I was like 21, 22 when I started grad school. Um, I sort of came to terms with the fact that I also, I dated men up until now, but I was also interested in dating women. And so it wasn't until I actually started letting myself do that, that I kind of got the experience and realized what I was attracted to and what I wasn't. And that's where, I was so avoidant with these men because I wasn't really interested in them. I wasn't attracted to them. It wasn't until I started dating women that I was like, I know that, some of these women I'm attracted to, and this is, what I want to pursue. And so the girl that I was seeing prior to joining the program, um, that was sort of the first real hard heartbreak, so to speak, that I ever experienced. And so that's sort of why I was willing to like raise the white flag and say, I don't know what I'm doing, but I really liked this girl and I don't want that to happen again. Um, and so I did the program, dated a little bit during the program. Um, wasn't super a priority for me during the program because I wanted to make sure I was focusing on myself. But I did. And then now, since finishing the program, my dating has been like completely different. Um, I did take like a couple of months after graduating to just kind of sit with what I had experienced and really just like think on it and work on putting it into practice. Because it is a lot that you learn in a relatively short time. And so I knew I just needed to sit with that for a bit. And then the past 3 or 4 months or so, I've been back out dating. And it's been like the most fun experience, um, meeting new people, connecting with new people, and just like showing up with no expectations. I think like it's not like I'm forcing myself to be there, and I'm also not forcing the other person to be there. It's just meeting people. If I end up not liking them, cool. If they end up not liking me, also totally fine. We move on. But it's something I'm a lot more open to, and I speak about with my friends and my family, and I mean on here. So um, there's a big shift in just dating mindset, but also like willingness to even engage in dating or talk about it.
No, thank you so much, Ashlee, for sharing this with us and being open. And I know the podcast is called Let's Get Vulnerable, and it's still can be scary to do. So thank you. Thank you for being real with us and sharing where you're at. And I love that change for you of dating is fun. Dating is fun. And what I know is when we can get to that place where dating is fun, it means that we've created emotional safety within ourselves and we're learning how to create emotional safety within our relationships. And we're not afraid to be seen. We're not afraid to be our authentic selves because for me, like what I hear the words you're saying, but then the core theme is you started to love and accept yourself and you genuinely can have that emotional safety and have that emotional availability with yourself, right? And now it's translating to, oh, I can also have this in my relationships. But what a huge accomplishment to be in that place.
Yeah, it feels really good. And like I said, it wasn't immediate after the program. I kind of had to sit with it for a bit, um, and let myself just absorb everything that I had learned. And then it sort of developed over time, and it's still developing. I'm still relatively new out of the program, I would say. Um, and relatively new back into the dating game. So that's still developing. But yeah, I think like as somebody who was really quick to abandon themselves as soon as dating, was part of the game, I was so quick to abandon myself in any relationship. Now it's like there's no abandonment. Like I'm always checking in with myself and making sure, I feel safe and this is something I'm enjoying and asking myself, how do I feel about this instead of solely just focusing on what the other person wants and needs and how I can just serve them to the fullest.
I love it so much. I do. And you talked about getting to this place of accepting your sexual orientation, which is something that, I'm a huge proponent of. And I don't talk about it enough on the podcast of like really learning what is your truth and learning how to live in that. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that and what that has been like for you?
Yeah. So prior to the program, it was something I always knew. I just thought, so that's why I talked about like forcing myself into these relationships with men. I just thought that if I could find the right guy, I wouldn't have to deal with it, which is always the
No wonder it was dating down for you if like you're not attracted to them. Okay.
that's always the wrong decision. You can't like don't settle because you're uncomfortable with dealing with who you are. Is something that I learned, and it took me a really long time to learn. Um, but when I had that connection with that girl, and it was something that she walked away from, I was like, I have no one to talk to about this because I haven't been honest with anyone about it. And so that was another reason
Mm.
for joining the program. I was like, well, I can tell a stranger about it. And even that was so hard. And I remember the very first call I had, I was like, I'm not going to tell. I think it was with Kathleen. I was like, I'm not going to tell her. Um, and I was like, I can just pretend that, it's men that I'm dating. And it became very obvious that if I wanted to get the most out of this program, I had to be honest. So during our second call, I think it was like my second or third week in the program, um, I I told Kathleen, and she was like, I can tell that was really hard for you. And I was like, it was so hard. It's like, you're the first person I've told. And then since then, it was just like, I saw the way she reacted and how supportive she was. And since then, and since like doing the program, it's just been something I've been more comfortable talking about. There's a lot of people in my life that still don't know. So if you're listening to this, surprise, you know. But those important people in my life do know. And at the end of the day, it was never a fear of like judgment from them, because I just don't have people in my life that would judge me for something like that. It was more so of like a judgment of myself. And with the program and with developing that like self-love and that confidence and not abandoning myself, it made that a lot easier.
Uh, Gets me emotional thinking about this because I know the impacts of sexual orientation and mental health and like not being able to be in your truth has just such a negative impact on you in so many ways. So the fact that you've been able to use the program and the support from Kathleen and the community to get to a place where you're accepting yourself and you're loving yourself and you're living in your truth. I mean, that is the most important thing. It's so powerful where you're at.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest gifts of doing the program was having that acceptance for myself and then giving the people in my life the opportunity to also accept me.
Isn't that so important? I love that you've had that awareness of, wow, it's not so much about them rejecting me, because a lot of times it's that, oh, we're having this inner fear, this self-rejection, right? Self-criticalness. And then we can almost use the people in our life and project that onto them because it's easier to think like, oh, they're going to reject me. But
Totally.
the truth is like, whoa, it's me. I'm the one doing the doing the rejecting. And of course, there are cases where people in our lives don't get it, and some people have that experience. But I love that you had that awareness of like, you know what, the people in my life actually are very supportive, the ones who matter. And what you were really dealing with was your relationship with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, when it came down to like my close, like my sister and my close friends, it was a matter of them being like, yeah, we know. It makes so much sense. Like, you've, like, when you've dated guys, like, you were always quick to jump out of it. Like, just knowing you, like, we know, but like, thanks for telling us. And I'm like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Um, for me, given that I have some really great people in my life. And that was just reassuring. Like once you tell one person and it goes well, um, it's just like a catalyst to keep going and to keep like being open with the people in your life.
Mm. What would you say to someone who is struggling with their sexual orientation and finding themselves? What would be your advice?
Find somebody who you can really feel safe with and confide in them. I think that was the catalyst for me. The biggest thing was finding someone that I knew um, without a doubt that would support me and wouldn't judge me and would make me feel safe and would help me to feel that in myself because I didn't feel safe saying it out loud for my own reasons. But I had people in my life that when I told them, they made me feel safe by being able to come to them and to tell them and to hold that space for me. So if you have someone in your life that, you can really trust and you can be vulnerable with, lean on them. I promise that people like helping people. So if someone can be that for you, then they will.
That's so powerful. And I love the point you made about realizing, wow, I went through this breakup with a woman and I didn't have anyone to go to. And it was kind of like that realization of I can't do this alone. Like I can't hide these things. I can't be living in shame or fear, right? That's not helpful. So I love that advice of just start with one person. Just find one person. And then it gets easier from there. What would you say to someone who is just repeating dating patterns, whether it's like a similar, like they are not able to show up, they have their walls, they get in relationship, get out quick if it's that scenario, or they're the anxiously attached person and they're finding themselves in the dating spiral. Basically, what would you say to someone who is repeating the same dating patterns over and over?
Yeah. If you're seeing the same thing over and over with different people, you have to look at what the common denominator is. That was something I was always aware of, was that I was the common denominator in every relationship that I was in. And that's not to say you have to feel like you have to judge yourself or feel shame about it. You just have to be aware of it, because once you're aware of it, then you can go and seek the resources you need. And that was something I was always good at, was finding the podcasts, finding the books. You also need to be aware of when you need more than that and when you need to ask for help and when you need to be accepting of that help, because asking for help is the hardest thing in the world, for me. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people. So once you go and you seek that out, ask for the help, accept the help. Because in, all of these situations, you're the common denominator. Um, and, you're the only person that can fix that relationship with yourself.
Such good advice. Oh my gosh, I couldn't have said it better. And I think it's so empowering when we realize that of, okay, I can accept this. I can, well, like we said earlier, acknowledge the pain, and then I can do whatever I need to do to fix it. But I won't be able to do that if I keep ignoring it, if I'm numbing it out with Netflix or whatever else, right? And if I keep believing the lie that, oh, I can do this on my own, then nothing's going to change. So it really is that acceptance, acknowledge where you're at, and then there's no shame in asking for help and asking for the support that you need. I know for both of us, right? It's like that was part of our journeys. I know for me, there definitely would not be a podcast. There would not be anything if I hadn't got support. Like everyone needs it. Everyone needs it.
Yeah,
No matter how smart you think you are, you need it.
totally. That's like, that's such a truth. And it's something that took me a really long time to come to terms with, is that no matter how hard I try, I can't do everything on my own.
I love that, Ashley. So powerful. So powerful. I think I know the answer to this, but what was your favorite part of the program in terms of group calls, coaching? Like what was your favorite part?
Definitely the coaching. Um, I will be honest, I wasn't super active in like the Facebook community. I was attentive to it. I didn't participate a lot in it. I really looked forward to coaching calls with the coaches, getting that um, advice and that coaching that was tailored to my specific situation. But also connecting with the coaches. They're excellent and they're fun, and I love to talk to them. Um, and like being able to connect and have that support and have a good model of what like an emotionally intelligent, secure person is was so helpful for me.
Oh, I love that you said that because there's this level of transformation that happens in the coaching relationship that is simply from being in relationship with that kind of person. You're having a corrective experience just through the coaching relationship, and then you're learning how to internalize a new model, a new way of responding to yourself. And that is why we are so picky about who we have on our team, because we know it has an impact on our clients and what models they're internalizing. So I'm glad you picked up on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was something like towards the end of the program when I was talking about dating again and like starting uh, going out on these dates as this newer version of myself or this better version of myself. Um, I was like, well, I just want it to feel like safe and secure. And then it started to click that, you know, those are the sort of the ways I felt when I was with these coaches, um, and seeing them like support me, and, you know, hold that space for me. I was like, that's what I want in a partner and in dating. So it was very much that corrective experience. And that was something that I just kind of ran with once I put those pieces together.
Oh, I love it so much. Yeah, your brain is getting a new model. And it's like we have to have so much compassion. If we don't have a model for something, how can we do it? So realizing that a lot of times it just takes having a new model, which is exactly what you described. Okay, what would you say to someone who is specifically considering the program, as someone who you listened for a long time, you read the book, you thought about it for a long time? What would you say to somebody who maybe they're on the fence just like you were?
Yeah, I think choosing to invest in yourself is never the wrong decision. Um, you can never grow too much. You can never nourish yourself too much. You can never support yourself too much. So if you have the opportunity to do something that's going to make you grow or that's going to help you or that's going to improve your life, even like a fraction, do it. It's never a mistake.
I love that. It's so true. We are our best investments. And once again, I think back to my own experience and just I know that I would be in a completely different place if I hadn't invested in myself. It has been my best investment. So I feel like we're so quick to go invest in all these other things for other people and even like making other people happy. I think about all the money I spent like being a bridesmaid and being like in everybody else's weddings and like just trying to, please everybody. It's like, no, like spend some money on you, right? You are your best investment. Um, okay. I have a question that I ask always. You've heard me ask this question. Before we do that, though, I just want to acknowledge this is getting released during Pride Month, which I think is
Whoa.
really cool. So this episode's coming out in June, and I just want to like make a statement, and maybe you want to add to this, Ashlee, but just like let people know that you are so worthy of love, no matter what your sexual orientation is, and if you are struggling with that, I really, really hope that you reach out and you get support because you're so deserving. You shouldn't have to go through um, figuring out who you are or living in your truth, the coming out process. Like you should not have to go through that alone, and you're just so, so worthy of love. And we love helping people with all kinds of different sexual orientations who come through the program. So I just wanted to say that, since it's Pride Month and it's June. Anything you want to add to that too, Ashlee?
Well, I mean, the timing's impeccable. It's almost as if we planned it. But um, no, I think you said it really well. You know, unfortunately, like there is a ton of shame around sexual orientation. And I think that's something that's going to be around for a while. Um, but like the best thing that we can do is support each other and find your people to support you. Um, and just like, there's never a reason to feel ashamed for loving somebody.
No, there no love wins. Love wins always. Um, yeah, I'm so grateful for you. And yeah, we didn't plan this, but it's almost as if we did. So thank you for being vulnerable with your story. I know that there's people listening today who really needed to hear this. So thank you again. And I always ask this question, so I'm going to ask you. You're walking down the street, someone comes up to you and they want to know your best life advice of the moment. What would you say to them?
That's an excellent question. At the moment, I'm looking a lot at worth because, like I said, my one of my limiting beliefs was worthiness. So if I think that's true for a lot of people. So I think it's just know your worth. Um, if somebody else doesn't, that's okay, but you're never under an obligation to try and prove it to them.
Ooh, I love that last line. You're never under an obligation to try to prove your worth. That is so good. I know there's people listening that needed to hear that. You have been such an incredible guest, Ashlee. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you. That was so fun.
Yeah, and if people want to connect with you on Instagram, can you tell them what is your Instagram handle?
Yeah, it's just my name. So it's Ashlee, Ashlee, Hogan, Hogan, with an underscore at the end.
Perfect. And we will put that in the show notes in case you want to thank Ashlee for coming on. Or I'm sure if you have questions about the program, she'd be happy to answer. But thank you so much. And as always, Ashlee and I both, we're wishing you high self worth and great relationships. We'll talk to you soon.